Hello everyone, my name is Chris Allen and I'm a senior customer engineer on the Identity Ace team at Microsoft. Have you ever wondered, hey, how do you open a support ticket for Microsoft Entra Permissions Management? I mean, who hasn't, right? Well, I'm here today to answer that question in a special two-part series titled, you guessed it, How to Open a Support Ticket for Microsoft Entra Permissions Management. For part one, we will cover prerequisites. What are the prerequisites for opening a support ticket for Microsoft Entra Permissions Management, you ask? You ask all the best questions. Here, let me show you. Before you open a case with Microsoft for Microsoft Entra Permissions Management, there's a couple of things you should collect first. The point of collecting all this data ahead of opening the case is to speed up the potential for resolution. A lot of this data, we tend to have to go back and forth requesting and getting that information after the case has been submitted, and it just makes the case take longer. It also helps us, get it routed properly from the get-go. So the items that we're going to be talking about grabbing are, we need the cell number, and I'll explain what that is in a minute. The Azure Tenant ID that CloudKnox has been onboarded to. The subscription ID, account ID, or project IDs of the instances that are having the issues, whether they're the subscription ID being in Azure, the account ID in AWS, or project ID in GCP. The controller status, the entitlement status, which is usually a timestamp showing when entitlement last ran successfully. The data collector ID, screenshots of the error, and a hard trace. And we'll go over what all that is. So let's get to it. So the first thing that we're going to want to collect is the cell number. So how do you find that cell number? Well, under Entra Permissions Management, once you are in that window, in your URL right at the very top, the cell number is right after the https://. So in my instance, it'll be C1. So once you have that cell number, record that. The next thing you need is the Azure Tenant ID. And for the Azure Tenant ID, we can grab that from Azure Active Directory. Right now I'm in intra.microsoft.com, going down to the Azure Active Directory card. And once we click that, it should take us into the Azure Active Directory tenant, and the tenant ID will be within that. As you can see, it's down here below Basic Information under the Overview tab, under Tenant ID. And to the right of that, you can grab your tenant ID by clicking the clipboard icon, Copy to Clipboard, which is right next to the tenant ID. So click that. It's now copied. You can drop that into Notepad, and that'll have it available for when you open a case. The next thing we need is the subscription ID, account ID, or project ID, depending on what kind of case you're opening. I'll show you what it is for the Azure environment. In this case, we'll want to go to the portal, the Azure portal, and go find the subscriptions blade. And the easiest way to do that, if it doesn't show up on your screen here, is in the Search, Resources, Services, and Docs box at the top of the screen. You're going to type subscription. And it'll start populating down below. Once you see it, you can just click on it. This is our subscription. The subscription ID is right next to it. To actually get that into the clipboard, the best thing to do is go ahead and click on the subscription name. And then on the right-hand side, you should see the subscription ID underneath the right blade, or right card. So subscription ID under Essentials, and the clipboard icon is right next to the ID. So click on that, and that allows you to copy that as well. Next thing we want to check is the controller status. We do that in Entra Permissions Management. So for within Entra Permissions Management, you will go over to the cog icon, which is next to the magnifying glass and the notification bell. It's right in between them. Click on that, click on the cog, and we're looking for the controller status. And the controller status will be under Authorization Systems. In this case for Azure, controller status is enabled. So we'll record that that we have an enabled controller status. For GCP, it looks the same, controller status enabled. For AWS, it also looks the same, enabled. The entitlement status is right next to that, so it shows the date and timestamp of the last entitlement, which runs about every 4 hours. So you want to make sure you capture that, just so we can show that you can show that the previous entitlement ran at this time. Then we want the data collector ID. To get to the data collector ID, it is the data collectors tab to the left of the authorization systems tab, under the same cog. And the data collector ID, the one you want, is the one that is impacted. Whatever issue you're having, if that data collector is impacted by the issue you're having, you want to grab that one. So you just highlight it, copy it, paste that into your notepad so that you have that to provide as well. It also helps to look and give, if you want, to give the status and the authorization system status as well. Onboarded is good, means it's done, it's out there. Online also is good, means that it is online and ready to go. If you see offline, that's probably indicative of a problem, but definitely include that information. Now, whenever you're opening a case, you want to make sure that you're collecting two things as far as showing what the issue is. You want to do screenshots of each of the steps along the way all the way up to the error, and then you also want to do what's called a hard trace. Now for the hard trace, what a hard trace is basically a network trace. So let's say that we're having an issue with user management. Like something in here is not working. So if you right click anywhere on the screen and click on inspect at the bottom of the box, this opens the trace that we're talking about. So for a hard trace, we want the network piece. So it looks like a Wi-Fi icon halfway down on the left-hand side, and it's possibly on your browser, it might be going across the top. But look for the Wi-Fi looking icon, that is the network icon. You click that, and I'm going to slide it out a little bit, just so we can see more of it. So in here, we want to make sure that preserve log is checked and disable cache. Preserve log is checked to make sure that we don't have the log cycling, which means part of it will disappear as another part starts up. We want to be able to capture the whole path of the issue. Disabling cache, sometimes this fixes your problem. If the issue is with browser cache, by checking that box, you disable it, so it won't rely on browser cache. It'll pull all the data fresh. And if that is the case, you check that box and the issue isn't reproducible, you're done. If it is still reproducible after disabling the cache, then you want to capture the stuff. So here we are in the user management window. Let's create a permission, just to kind of show you what it looks like on this side. We're going to search for a group called, I believe I called it temp or test. Yeah, test user. So as you can see on the right-hand side, it's actually going into to AAD and searching for groups that have test in the name. So I'll click on the one I want. I'm going to set a custom permission. Click next. Let's give them viewer access to my AWS environment. Click next. And so on and so forth. We're just going to leave it at that and click on save. And obviously that was successful, but if we had an error, it would show up in here on the right-hand side. It'll probably have a red code in status, and it'd be either a 400 series or a 500 series event. Instead of sending us just that error, we'd like to see the whole trail. So the best way to do that is to download it. So up at the top right-hand side on the bar, you'll see an up arrow and a down arrow. The down arrow is export har, and this is a down arrow with a line underneath it. You click on export har, and that will download the trace into a har file. So we'll pretend I did that, and that's the last file that we need. And if you will include that with everything else, when you open your case, then at that point, we'll have pretty much everything we need. Anything beyond that will be in troubleshooting mode and not so much collection and due diligence. We want to make sure that we have all of this data up front so that we don't have to keep asking for that kind of stuff, and it'll speed up our troubleshooting as well as our developers' troubleshooting if we have to cut a bug. In part 1, we discussed what data should be collected before opening a support case. Providing this at the time of creation can help reduce the back and forth between you, the customer, and the support engineer, and hopefully reduce total time to resolution. My name is Chris Allen. Thanks for watching.